on the last tape, we had some real interesting projects we were starting. We're going to try to work on all of them on this. Continuation of Les Demet's crutch mold, Dave Midgely's wing mold, Windy's 40 ship. We're going to break in some Saito engines for Gerald Champ. We're going to hopefully get our updated jets and mufflers if they come in this week. We're going to get them installed, and maybe even if the weather cooperates, get out there and get a test flight with the new carburetors, the new cranks, all the lightweight parts that are in the new motors. The other project we're working on is the plug for Dave Midgely's Cardinal Wing. We're going to make a carbon fiber wing hopefully in the next month or so for Dave. We've been sanding and priming and sanding and priming. We're really looking to make this as really nice as possible because we expect someday that if the mold works out as planned, we'll be able to replicate wings with not a whole lot of effort. It's going to be, if Les is ready, and I don't know if he's going to be ready today or tomorrow, to sheet up some of these foam wings. We have some tricky stuff we want to try on the foam wings that we've never done before. It might work, it might not, who knows. But in the meantime, the shop's a busy place this time of year. And we hope you pick up some information off of this video, and of course all of them, that you can put to use in your own modeling world. And we're going to see if Mike Costello has made any progress on his project, and Rich Jacobone if he's made any progress on his new Stuka, which is going to feature some molded parts and some real nice, a very nice updated canopy that he has just finished. Just to refresh everybody's memory here where we are on this wing, we have been sanding coats of primer religiously pretty much every day, trying to get the final, and I always hope we're on the last coat, but if I find anything worth cleaning, I want to get as much, now that I'm down to using 1200, I want to get as much of this in this dimension, and you can see the little high spots, the little spots that are coming through. I want to get a nice radius edge on there. It looks like we have a little break in the ultra cold weather, so I'm going to try to get another coat of primer on this today. Again, what I'm doing in essence while I'm sanding this, and it seems like I'm spending a lot of time, I really am spending a lot of time, but I'm sanding every wing that'll ever come out of this mold. And that seems to be the gain in anything is anybody that'll ever have one of these wings. I'm sanding it for you now, so if you get your checkbook out, send me some money. Again, one thing nice about doing this is this is a relatively hard surface, so you can really bear down with the sanding block. I'm using a soft sanding block, whether it's dry or wet. But the last couple, I guess, with the last 3 or 4, I want to get sanded with 1200. And that usually leaves such a nice surface, almost a polished surface, that the final coat of primer will lay right down. Or another choice would be, is that last final coat, what I could do is, I could really just use some of the paint that I have left over, the Brodak colored paint. Again, I'll see, because this will be a waxed, polished surface when we go to actually cast up the mold itself. And like the Miss Ashley wing, we'd really like this to be, as well finished as possible. I'm thinking we're almost ready here to see if the weather's going to permit us to spray indoors today or outdoors or what. Now while our primer is drying, we have Gerald Champ's 2 motors here. We've broken in many motors for people over the years. It's something I feel like we can add to the hobby, because a lot of people are not familiar with the unique way the 4 strokes are supposed to be run in. One of the things we want to find out, just look at the directions. If you're going to break your own engine in, see, this is the key thing you got to look at, and it's in the Saito direction. Do not exceed 4,000 RPM for the first. 10 minutes. Well, the old directions used to be for, a longer amount of time. These are the updated directions. And since we're doing this all the time, I've noticed a couple of things that are really helpful. If you're going to use a Venturi on a 4-stroke, the best thing is, and this is a brand new motor, but the best thing absolutely is break it in with the carburetor. Don't break it in with a Venturi, because you can't run it at 4,000 with a Venturi. There's just no way. So that's really a tip worth its weight in gold. And we're going to break these in. We have an 80 too. By the way, the 80, we've already had one of Gerald's other 80s that was in the Red Baron when Bob Zambelli had the unfortunate luck of having the wing break. The 80 has been just an absolute pussycat of a motor. The 80 would be another choice if I was going to try different motors in the Typhoon, and I've already tried the 91 and the 72 and decided I like the 91 better. What's nice about this, it has the breather in the back, very convenient. Carburetor is mounted in the middle instead of the 72 where it's off to the side and you have to kind of swing it over. But these motors, once they're broken in, they seem dead reliable. And there's an awful lot of people now, they want to go to 4-stroke power. Well, my suggestion is if you do, don't even think about anything but Saitos. Pick the one that's right for the plane. Break it in properly. Get the right propeller, the right fuel. I have a thing I can email you about all the do's and don'ts. I think it's already been in Stunt News though. I've asked them to put it in anyway. But anyway, we'll get these two broken in. It looks like it's going to rain any minute. A good thing we got that primer sprayed when we did. But even if it rains, we just do it inside our garage. But the break-in is a critical part of this. It's not just like take it out of the box, run it. You never want to take it out of the box, run it with a Venturi. That's all of the engines I've seen that have had problems. It's when people don't break them in properly. That seems to be a critical thing. When the oil comes out the breather tube crystal clear, and that's typically an hour to an hour and a half, then you can kind of up the RPM gradually. You're not trying to do what you do with a 2-cycle, 2-4 it or get it to heat the liner. None of that seems appropriate for these motors. And the ones that we've broken in that way have just been just as good as it gets. So if you're into 4-strokes, maybe there'll be some tips here you can pick up for your own program. Over the life of the Typhoon, I've had the 91 in there, a 72. I've always used the throttle control, so that's always been very convenient, even at the Nats. And one of the things that it's apparent to me, but I guess some people it isn't apparent, is if you're putting a 4-stroke in the plane, make it the biggest 4-stroke that'll fit in there, and then just don't run it at full throttle if that's a problem. See what's happened, Paul Walker has even put us, as far as I know, a 72 in his 56 powered plane. Well, that's my feeling. If the motor's bigger than it has to be, like it is in Tom and Mike's 4-cycle Cardinals, just back out on the throttle a little bit. Or if you're using a Venturi, use a smaller Venturi. But that technology has worked for me. A lot of people don't like using a carburetor. They think the motor doesn't run right with a carburetor. Well, I don't know. It's probably 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But that technology of using a carburetor and, in fact, adjusting it in flight and landing with the motor running, that kind of worked for me very well. So I look back at this, and if I get back into 4-strokes, well, we can be out flying this afternoon. That's what's nice. The question is always, and I get it asked every day, what's the best motor ever made? Well, yeah, what's the best? What's the best for you? What's the best shoe ever made? See, my shoes fit me. They might not fit you. I like, and there's an answer to all this. I have Rojets in this plane, Saitos in this plane, Tune Pipe Rojets in this plane. And the answer is, if you need to know which is the best motor for you, buy one of each, fly them, and see what appeals to you. There's pluses and minuses to everything. There's price differences. But if you try one of each, you're pretty much going to figure it out for yourself, and you won't need some expert to help you along. That's my feeling. Buy one of each, try it yourself. We've had incredible good luck with the Rojets. I just can't tell you how happy I am with those motors. Now, it seems like most of the other people in our area have had good luck with the Rojets. Well, there's always politics involved. There's always, and what I call nonsense involved. But If you have one of everything, you can make up your own mind. You don't need anybody to make it up for you. If you use the clamp mounting system, what's nice in this case is you could switch from the 56 to the 80 to the 72 to the whatever in a matter of seconds. Or if you cut a little bit off the cowling sides and made an opening for the muffler, you could switch from 4 strokes to 2 strokes. And that's the thing that look at this, it's been printed in stunt news. That's the thing that makes this, the universal clamp mount, worth putting in your next plane. Because then you're not locked in, you don't have to Dremel up the motors, and the amount it weighs is nothing. It doesn't even matter when you think of the convenience of being able to switch motors. We've done it right at the field. What's nice about our test stand, we have a giant fuel jug, 32-ounce jug. We keep our test props that we use for the various size engines right on board. We have a little adjustment for doing our tune pipe work and a little throttle control, which you need to break in a 4-stroke. You need to be able to have some way of adjusting that throttle to keep it down below 4,000 RPM. Sometimes for the first couple of minutes you have to leave the blow driver on because I don't want that engine to just accelerate up to RPM. I want it to idle its way right through. I will leave the blow driver on and then recharge it. Now once it warms up and once I've got the first 10 minutes on it, I can get rid of the blow driver and it's still idling under 3,000. You can see the oil already pumping through the engine, pumping right through the tubing as it runs. The thing is, you just don't want to fire it up and let it run. It's not a 2-cycle. There's a lot of moving parts in there have to wear in. Keep it nice and rich. Look at the oil coming through there. See the oil that's coming out of there? Relatively clean so far, but we want it to be crystal clear before we up the RPM on the engine. And in the 80 will be very similar to the 56. The same rules apply no matter what Saito you're using. And that system has really worked well for us over the years. Now basically the same rules apply to the 80. Just getting that the first minutes of run, I guess, under 4,000. Checking at the oil now. In the beginning it's coming out a little bit dirty. What I do is constantly wipe the table so I can see the latest oil that's coming out. When it comes out clear, relatively clear, the 56 took about an hour and a half of run time to get clear oil out of it. You never know how long it's going to take. Some of them are fitting a little tighter than others. You can see it's raining as it always is this time of year, clammy and rainy. But we're inside the shop, and that's a nice way to run an engine in if you have a choice. Now we finished up 2 more test pipes for Richard Oliver. These are 60 test pipes. One of them has a much larger hole in the first baffle than the second one, so that's one of the things we're going to try to get out to him. He's still able to fly, unfortunately. At this time of year, we're pretty well squeezing in a flight, maybe 1 or 2 in the afternoon when it's warm, but it's gotten really too cold to fly, and we have too many other shop projects to work on. You thought it's safe to go back in the water. Les Demet decides he's going to come up with yet another modified crutch. So, we're now calling him Les the Crutch Demet.
There you go.
Anyway, all right, he's making
a more universal crutch.
Yeah, we're not going to put a lot of this on tape, but this is the original one. This is going to be the part in here he's going to try to make one with a Nomex. What, a Nomex pad or a sheet or what? I'm not sure.
It's Nomex between two very thin sheets of woven carbon fiber.
Okay.
Very, very strong. It's an eighth of an inch.
Yeah, it'll give us something to check out anyway.
Very, very strong stuff.
Chicky, when you take a bath, you're not that good looking when you don't take a bath, but when you take a bath, you're even worse. Now, we got a couple of photos to put on a video here from our friend Milt Graham. I got to show you these photos. These are so cool. And I wanted to show these pictures to Chicky first because there's a story that goes with this. These came from our friend Milt Graham. Well, I'm reading the thing and I don't even know if I can put this on video. It's so funny. Anyway, this is his original design. He was painting it and he said he had it inside the house and a bunch of birds pooped on it. So, Milt, if you only knew we were rolling on the floor when I read this letter. Milt originally lived in the Flushing area and he knows the legends of the event, the Gene Schaefer's and Billy Simonses and Ronnie Pavlov's and all the people from way back when. And he's friends with our new friend Scott Dinger, who's making up exhausts for the B-25 as we hopefully one day this week we'll get the little bit lighter weight with the little more realistic curve at the end. Hope we're going to see them soon, but this is Milt's backfire. Milt's got some really nice woodwork going on here, as in all his planes. You can't really tell, but it looks like he's got the big automotive spray gun. And of course, living in sunny California, you get to paint every day, unlike where we are here in the, what would you call this, Les? The beautiful Northeast at this time of year, wet leaves and humidity.
Yeah.
Not going to be painting anything around here lately. I would guess this is the part that's fun painting the canopy. Getting ready to start sanding the silver. And we all know what fun that is. All the tail feathers on the bird are hollow. Always, we want to thank Milt for sharing this, and hope pretty soon we'll see those exhausts from Scott Dinger, his friend. And Scott says, get out there and kick some butt, Milt. Now, we don't really think about it that way in our shop, but hey. Looks like you're finishing the silver technique down. Now just pull that garbage bag off the wing and let's see what the bottom looks like. And thanks, we appreciate the video. We have an RC video here, and Les actually likes the paint job that's from the RC video. Okay, this is the video that Milt has donated to ArtCause, Model Sport Video Magazine. Can we find a number or an email or something where if anybody's interested in this they can get it? Here we go. It'll come up on the web, modelsport.com. Looked like a pretty neat video. We've been watching it over and over here. And Les steals the guy's paint job.
No, not that one. That's not the good one.
There's not one? You like the red one better?
The Kiki Somanunez, whatever his name is.
Well, hey, the red is always my choice. For the one that pooped on Milt's wing, you better come forward. We need you to testify in that case. Where did he go? Chicky, you got to put him in the cage. He's losing so many feathers. All right, when are you going to be ready to pour this mold, baby?
I need some material to make the fences out of.
Okay. What's the biggest trick of mixing molding rubber, Les? What do you think it stirred? Stir it 2 minutes more.
And then stir it for 2 additional minutes.
And then when you think that's done, stir it 2 minutes more.
Stir it until you have
Chicky, shut!
To have a severe cramp in your forearm.
Oh, man. Anyway, we're getting down the end here, and Les is liking this material so much, he said he's going to order a 50-gallon drum of it. We're going to be making crunchy molds. Make a mold of your basement. Oh, man.
Fill your basement with it.
Now, Woody, what we found out making this mold that I thought was nice, he made it out of a yardstick.
That works well.
Yeah.
That works well.
But see, this is why Les and I work good together. He's a perfectionist, and I'm going to get the mold mixed and get it in the tube, and let's get going, Bunky. And by the way, this video we've been watching from Milk Graham, this is kind of, they're tearing a Saito down and talking about, it's kind of a neat video. You should look some of this stuff up. Add it to your video library.
We're in pretty good shape.
Now we have the newly modified engines. These are the ones that have different crankshafts, pistons, and liners in it. And we're going to try to get out to the field. Tomorrow is supposed to be a nice day. We've been in the middle of some stormy weather. We're going to try to get out. But the first thing is, and I thought this would be a convenience thing, I'm going to try to run the engines because we're going to start practicing with the Z-Tron, and I'm going to need to sync these carbs up. These are relatively new engines. So I thought I'd leave it in, break the engines in with the cowls off, probably even fly it for a day without the cowls, just to get some feel for getting them synchronized, and that usually is pretty labor intensive, takes a few flights if we get out to the field. But we got something else going on here that's really interesting. Now you may remember every year about this time of year, usually it's in the winter months, I get excited about running my Lionel train collection. And of course these are running around the perimeter of a room that's soon going to be a room for my grandchildren. When we have grandchildren. I have all these great pictures that George Venturini painted for me in the room, and a collection of stuff that I had when I was young, when my father was alive. A lot of this stuff has a lot of meaning for me. But one of the things that I really have enjoyed in the past couple of years, not had the time and energy to work on it, of course, is all the new trains that have come out on the market. Now the stuff that's out on the market right now is just, it's light years ahead of the stuff that's, I call it antique Lionel pre-World War II. But one of the things I just been dying to do is get some new stuff. And it looks like this is the year Karen has promised me for Christmas. I could get any engine I want. And the train show is coming up at the end of the month, so I'm going to basically go down there, and it's the equivalent of going to Brodax in our area of the country anyway. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to try to take the spare room we have upstairs and convert it into a more modern, a nicer room for running the train collection. Now the truth is, every winter about this time, it's usually just before Christmas, around Thanksgiving, we set up our Christmas tree. We always have a little train running around the Christmas tree. But I've always wanted to have a bigger, more expansive layout. It really couldn't happen while my son was living in the house, but now that he's kind of let that room go, we're going to have a whole new room, and we're going to, well, maybe in the next couple of years, put together what I hope is going to be a pretty extensive layout, much bigger and much more complex than we have here. Now you might remember we had this really nifty room. This is the third floor of our house. So it's quite a big room, and we converted it into a place to store all our Spitfire memorabilia, and our Spitfires, of course. This was a really nice bedroom for a couple of years. But what's happened over the last year or two, everything that was in the adjacent room wound up in here, and you can see you can't even see the floor anymore. There's 1,000 videos on the floor. There's every mold for every fuselage and every piece of stuff here, and cans of paint. We've turned it into a storage room. Now one of the reasons is because what we want to do is use this room, and you can get a view of just how big and extensive this is. It's really going to allow us to have, I spent the whole day painting it today, it's going to allow us to have roughly a 16-foot by 6 O-gauge train layout. And within the next week or so, Mike has already ordered some material. Mike is going to do, we're actually going to do a video, and I'm not going to include a whole lot of it on here. We're going to do a separate railroad video for making a giant bench and documenting every step of building the layout. The video is probably going to take me 2 years to make. But now that I have this, it's really a nice area. I'm really expecting, this is all the stuff that used to be in here. Now, one of my motives was, and I think this is something other people that may enjoy model railroading and model planes too. I, of course, I like them both. But one of the thoughts is when we make this table, we're going to make it a little higher than you normally would, so that I can fill the whole bottom of it with storage bins for all the molds, the composite stuff, the ring molds. And you can see what's happened to me is there's just box after box. There's really about, I've calculated out about 800 videos that a lot of them they're 15 years old now. I've got to start sorting through them. They're all in boxes. There's boxes of stuff here. I don't even know what it is. But it's going to make me, all the molds we had for mold and balsa, what it's going to do, it's going to force me to do two things. And this is something you might be able to do on your own too, is by having a train table. In essence, I'm making a giant storage closet. I'm going to have doors in front, hopefully, that I can get in and keep all my molds, all the composite stuff, maybe even other things, and then Karen's stuff for her doll making and Christmas present wrapping. So we're going to try to have quadrant off into different areas, but as I look back at this now, it took me 2 full days to spackle and clean this room. And I'm looking around at it and thinking, wow, and I put up some track lights, of course. I'm going to get some dimmer switches on all these bulbs. But, you know, we were all kids at the same time, and in my case, I always had this, I don't know, the sound or the smell of Lionel trains. And every year we have this giant train show that, it's just really a big event here in the East. Mike Costello and I, or Karen and I, have gone many times. And this year I get to pick out my Christmas present, so I hope by the end of next week we'll have a table up here. And then we can clean out the Spitfire bedroom and put it back the way it was. But they are predicting nice weather this weekend. I wouldn't hold my breath either way. I'm just not real confident we're going to get in a flying day here. Anxiously await starting our train layout, and at the same time, so many other projects going on here. We're going to say if we can sneak in a day of flying, but again, this time of year, it's really the building season. Now we're going to go down the field and try to run the motors in on the B-25, but it sure doesn't look like a great day. One of the only nice things left here is we're at the end of the season where the leaves usually change, and you can see a canopy of leaves. Pretty soon we're not going to have a single leaf in town. They're all turning yellow and red, and it's really a nice time. You can see the piles of leaves down, and we're going to be doing that in the next couple of days. The objective today is just to get some runtime on the engines and try to get the throttle synchronized. Really not going to get any flying today. The wind is already pounding away on us. But if I can get, the break-in runs and get a basic carb sync done on this, Rich is supposed to, he's over there. He's supposed to come over and give me a hand. We're going to find out. If we just get this done today. It's so nice looking at the trees and everything, but this time of year, the wind is usually howling early in the morning. You really don't get any. It's the most unusual thing to just get a whole day where it's really flyable. That's why we're already starting our building projects. So you didn't even bring your plane today?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, smart boy. Yeah, it's not a good day. It's a good day for doing this, if we can get this done today. They said during the week it's really going to get cold, too.
Yep.
We're going to be screwed again. Les has got his 2 crutches done.
Does he?
Yeah, the mold for the second one is drying right now.
I went to the meeting on...
Get these broken in and synchronized, we'll put the cowls back on and all the spare little hardware that we have. We run one while the other one's cooling, run this one while this one's cooling, back and forth, back and forth. That's worked out pretty well. Break the cool off and then I want to sync the carbs. I want to do them one at a time. I think they're going to be nice, Rich. That they both sounded real nice.
You're going to start both of them at the same time?
Yeah. To do the carbs, I got to have them both running at the same time. Always doing when it's a crappy flying day. We sit here and look at plans. This is Tom Niebuhr's, that's John DeTavio's JD Falcon. And this is a plane I personally have a lot of experience with. In fact, if you look at it real close, it looks a lot like an Impact. Maybe Paul Walker had a set of these plans 20 years ago, who knows. Rudder's even the same. But this was really a fine flying plane. And of course, the neat thing about it, if you really like Jimmy's doing nostalgia stuff, you can call up John. You really can't call him up. He's always somewhere you can't reach him. But you can. He really has the original model. I think Niebuhr has the model, doesn't he? The real one.
They have aluminum templates. I don't think they have a model left, but he's
okay.
Aluminum templates.
And there's enough pictures of them around. You could put the. You gonna make it orange?
Yep.
Make
orange
it
or yellow, one or the other.
Orange with the white flares. This was a cool thing. But it's uncanny how much it looks like an Impact, huh? That's pretty cool. And how much did Tom get for the kit? $100, 150?
160, I think.
Oh, and the wood is all good in it, so.
That's with the molded turtle deck and.
Yeah, and this is all molded. Wonder where you got that idea. That's a good idea. That's the way to do it, though. None of that carbon 6-inch blocks. That's for sure. The more you can mold, the better it is. Put the Scott Dinger exhausts on here. We're gonna hopefully get back out and get a flying day on it. On the way back from the field, Rich wanted to visit this hobby shop, and what they did recently, they made an outdoor LGB train display, so I thought it would be worth, because we're getting into train mode with Christmas coming. We check out this. I've never seen this before. Rich is already across the street. He said they got a nice little layout outside. Check this out. This is on the side of the hobby shop. This is kind of cool. Rich is already here. He's got my coffee going, and the guy's got some LGB outdoor. These are really cool. They used to have this in Fairfield Gardens. This is really wild. Maybe we can get Rich interested in buying some trains.
track secure. Only cutting around secure still.
You lost these pieces.
I have a nice pond. This would go right around my pond. We got to figure some way of talking Karen into buying me this for Christmas. Yeah, they're made to be outdoors, Rich.
So you can keep them running for the Christmas.
What we need, Rich, is a scale flying field here. It's a good location for it, too.
How expensive are those?
Yeah, so we've had a good day over at, this is one of the oldest hobby shops that I know of. And it's a place you can buy a cup of coffee. They have control line stuff. It's called Ridgefield Hobbies. And they have this neat outdoor layout. I hope you enjoyed our little visit. The family is very friendly. I bought a lot of stuff from them over there. Rich, what'd you buy today? Plywood? They always have the things, all the documentation we got for our semi-scale models. We've got every piece of it from here. Cool place. Well, the amazing Les is here with his
The
taking
yardstick material worked
the
perfectly.
yardstick stuff worked great. Okay.
We didn't put any finish on it. What we did do, though,
Did you wax it?
before we poured it, was we waxed it. Now that would be reusable.
Yeah. Don't throw it. Well, let's see what the mold itself. Yeah.
Look at that.
And we got the other crutch. Where's the other crutch? You got back from Midgely?
And here it is. Here's the other one.
Okay. And what does that one weigh? Did you weigh it yet?
No, we haven't weighed it since
Okay.
he milled it.
What he did, he milled it perfectly flat in a milling machine. Both sides.
Surfaces are true.
But they're nice too. He did a nice cut on it.
Yep. Yep. And you know, I'll tell you something, Wendy. I can see whenever you make something for a mold, this is the buck, if you will, or the model from which this thing is cast here. A little more attention to the detail here. The smoother you make this, the better the part is.
By far. No doubt about that.
I'm really pleased with this because I can remember taking the fence
Oh yeah,
off this one.
it breaks
We
every
broke
time.
everything up.
Yep, it breaks every
Look
time.
at how nice
Let's see how it's
comes
coming.
away.
All right.
Isn't that nice?
I got the motors running yesterday, and today obviously we're not going to even go outside. So
Well, not.
the next thing is the light exhaust on the B25 and some taxi tests. Be ready to go.
Oh boy.
Coming right up.
I like this.
Oh boy, you got it made,
Well,
kid.
here's our first nice. If we keep the cross members to a minimum, we're doing ourselves a favor. Because that's the only resistance I'm getting
Yeah, well,
where the cross members are. Look at that.
Let's see
Look at that.
Okay, now you got to trim the edges. Trim the edges with scissors.
Yep.
And once you can lay that up today, tomorrow you can put the support piece you want in there.
Yep. Nice.
All right, you let me know when you're ready to. Well, this is belt crank time, so what we do is
You do your thing.
Wendy has the joy of making belt cranks all day, while Les enjoys himself making some crutches. This time of year, belt cranks, it's like Santa Claus feeding the reindeer here.
What I'd like to do is find a material that
So what Les has is a piece of, this is the plexiglass that Brian bought us. It's scrap shelving. I don't know what, it's ½ inch maybe. We found out another thing. This material sanded relatively well. Sanded pretty nice, didn't it?
Yeah. This, the rubber. I was astounded.
Right. Now this part wound up being 42 grams, so we've interpolated this. We know this part is going to be more. But you can describe what this is, because that's a universal, in other words, it's a universal part.
These beams here, they look very long, and they are actually. They're much longer than they need to be, especially for the 40. But This will take a 40. Once the part is cast, you can cut back on either side to fit the 60, and in any case, we'll be cutting off the front once the motor is mounted. We just wanted to make sure there was enough material to run from the front of the airplane back to the high point of the wing.
Okay.
Because I can see these being an integral part of a bell crank mount.
Yes.
In other words, you run a
you can run a former right across, right.
And you're tying into everything.
Okay, now what we've been doing too is we've been saving all the carbon fiber scraps, and Les is going to, first thing is get all the carbon fiber scraps for the nose piece here, cut the shape. So we'll be ready to go. I got some toe already cut for you that we made for the last part, so you don't have to cut any toe.
All right.
And you'll be ready, and then we'll get a layup going. You want to put one layer of newspaper under that?
That might be a good idea.
Just to make, oh, you know it'd be better even if you had a piece of tin foil. Then you can just roll up the edges so it's like a little turkey pan.
Do you have any aluminum?
I'll go see if Karen's got some. We got all the little pieces cut. You got all your little pieces to stuff up in the front?
Yeah, I think we got enough stuff to stuff it in the front.
Stuff to stuff.
Stuff to stuff in the front.
All right, let's mix resin. Now, as he's done so many times before, with all the little scrap parts cut up.
Help!
Help! I've glued myself to the mold! Anyway, this one is one that we want to get this a little bit fancier now, so he's making up his... This is the second one you made, right? I made one and you made two.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 different molds, 3 different parts. He's using up toe like it's candy here. Using up all this great carbon material. Anyway, this is a good
thing. It's a good way to get rid of the scraps.
Yeah, it's a good learning curve too. This the only way I know of to learn any of this stuff is you just got to do it. Too bad you can't really learn this without getting sloppy and greasy. What we did, we put a piece of tin foil down over Brian's old plexiglass. So there's this little dripping and drooling. There's no way you can get around doing that. And of course, all your carbon scraps you should save. You just pack them in there, and you'd be surprised how many you need to fill a mold. It takes quite a bit to fill it.
You've kind of reached.
And the objective here is just to pack as much down into the mold as you possibly can, making sure each piece is wet, and then squeegeeing out all the extra resin when you're done. It's known in the industry as random fibers. But this is a good little part to, if you have never molded a part before, this is a good one to do your first attempt on, because basically it's easy to do. You can use up all your scraps. Not a high-tech thing, and it's almost always so much over-engineered, you'd never be able to break that part. You probably could put one of those gas-powered RC engines on that. And the trick is each time go through, just wet each piece out. And we're going to put a piece of Teflon over the top of that when we're done.
All right.
Okay, so now you can start with the other cavity. You can interconnect them. I'd interconnect them with 1 or 2 pieces just to make it.
I'm just going to take a little toe and...
Even though you're going to grind that out in the ultimate aeroplane, the pieces in between are just holding these in alignment while he's making up this test part. Keep in mind, Les has got, well, we got 3 different choices here as far as crutches go. That's half the trick, is getting the little pieces that you, now I wanted to put this tip on a video too. A part like this usually uses about 2 ounces of resin. Best to mix 1 ounce at a time. Gives you more working time. In this case, because Les is in practice mode, doing 1 ounce at a time is the best choice.
This goes out.
Like a rocket scientist, when you're over there, we're going to use West resin for this layup.
Like a little...
And they're in pre-metered pumps. You just pump down.
1.
Each one of the West resins has a pump, so it mixes automatically.
Yeah,
so never cheat.
Lay up about 15 minutes.
Never cheat yourself on the stirring. The stirring is one, if it's not stirred and you get a soft spot, You're always better doing a little more stirring because you got plenty of work time. What did you say? You had a half hour into this already?
No, we're 15 minutes in.
Oh, you got plenty. That's if a lot of times even at 45 minutes you can still mix it. It's not a problem. Go through our inventory. You remember we originally came up. This is the one for the 65 jet. The mold. We already have the crutch done. That crutch is in the bank. This was one of the original plugs that became a variation of this one. So by Les doing all this experimenting, he's got a nice little background now in not only designing the part, laying it up, seeing where the weight is, but we expect soon we're going to have, well, what are we going to have? I'm not sure even I know. What the hell are we doing this for?
We're making ladders for birdcage.
Oh, I think Chicky approves. No, seriously. This, which is in the Typhoon, even after, what are you on 3 years here of flying and not one drop of fuel on it. You go in there, take the engine out, and look underneath the engine pads, and it's as dry as the day it was made. And so it's just one good way of improving a plane and adding some to its overall life. So hoping that ultimately we can get the crutch maybe a half to 3/4 of an ounce lighter than its wood part, stronger and easier to make a perfectly straight one that doesn't put any stresses into the fuselage. All of those would be tentative advantages when these things go into full production, which I hope is going to be soon. Les is just dying to make one a day. I can just see him now dreaming about the day he can come to the shop every day and make one.
And have somebody make one a day.
When our good friend Warren Walker was at the Reno Air Races, he took a copy of Stunt News, one of them that had the B-25 in it, and had Tiger DeStefani autograph it and send it to me. I didn't put this on the last video because I was out. I had the picture out looking for a frame, but really want to thank Warren Walker for this. That's pretty special. We obviously are going to find a proper frame for it and possibly put this up in a Spitfire bedroom at some point in time where we have a lot of our other memorabilia along with the soon-to-be L-gauge train layout from Warren Walker. And believe me, I really appreciate this, War. Along with the pickles and the whatevers. Okay, Tiger DeStefani, almost done packing his crutch. I'll get you a piece of Teflon. Oh, it's over by the landing gear mold. You can use the same piece over and over, just pull the little pieces off it. The little schmutz that when it dries up, and that's ready to cover with Teflon.
Well, don't
and
go
hatch another egg.
Stick around for another 4 or 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm going to be here. Karen's got me. What am I doing, Karen?
I just want you to spray this white for
Paint baskets.
paint baskets.
Look at Featherbird over here. Hey! Hey! He escaped!
Take 5
He
minutes.
escaped. Put him back in the cage. He's going to get in that thing. Chicky, get back in that cage.
Step right into the epoxy.
Shit, he gets in the epoxy and then he's all gooey. Ah, Chicky! Chicky, you're going to go live with you-know-who. That's it,
Don't look
Chicky.
at me.
You're going to go to Les Demet's house.
Don't
and
look at me.
Les Demet hunts birds. He's going to shoot you.
No, I would never do that. Not to Chicky.
You're going to go to that guy in Vermont that has
Yep,
birds
no.
like you for snacks.
The only birds I shoot are clay targets.
His big eagle is going to eat him for a snack. How you doing
There's
here?
no limit.
Hey, you used almost a full 2 ounces on this. About 1 3/4 ounces?
What, so far, yeah.
So far, okay. Safe to say.
But I need your expert advice on a few things here.
Okay.
Because what's happening is, on the far side, over here, this stuff wants to pull out.
Okay.
But I think once we put the...
Okay, so you put a piece of Teflon over it,
Put a piece of Teflon
Put
sheet
6
over it, roll the daylights out of it.
roll-o-matic, and just put some weight over it. Tomorrow, when you come back to this project, you'll be a crutch master.
Well,
Are you a crutch master? I'm not sure.
I don't know. We're going to find out.
I think that'll be enough.
Yeah, it ought to be.
Famous last words, damn it. Thing with testing, and this is another totally unrelated thing. Les is getting the exact weight of some core blocks. He wants to run
52.7 grams.
So explain what you want to do. You're going to try doing white glue mixed with water?
Well, basically what we're looking to do is improve the strength of the foam, put a skin over top of the improved strength foam of 1/32, and then we're going to use the fiberglass technique.
Okay.
And see if, with the sandwich of 1/32 balsa and 2 hard skins, if we can't make a really strong, lightweight wing that's easy to work on.
You know, one of the
This panel
things...
weighed 52.7.
We're going to record each part of this down on Les's notes. This is the opposite panel. This is the hard mold that we're working on for Dave Midgely. This is probably going to need 1 or 2 more sandings. Not real important. We have plenty of dry time in between coats. That's going to ultimately get buffed, waxed, and we're going to make a hard shell mold for that carbon fiber wing. That wing will be very similar, but not totally identical to the carbon fiber wing that's in Miss Ashley. Now, the only way to really do this test, and it really isn't a test, is we got to keep track of the weights every step of the way, and then we have to know when Les does the traditional wing, which you already have upstairs, how it compares to a traditional wing. So we're going to start by...
This one is 48.4.
Okay,
Interesting.
this is just going to be an experiment to see how much Les can thin the glue. None. They're all full of epoxy.
Narrows it down.
What Les is going to do is he's going to put some tar paper on the roof of our shop because he doesn't... I think you could use this stuff for tar paper. It'd be better than carbon fiber. Okay, now you got .2.
This is the .2.
Okay, and your plan is to mix 50-50 with water, white glue.
Well, we don't know yet. We're going to see how it works out.
Keep in mind, all this is experimental
This
stuff.
is strictly by guess and by gosh, and nothing more.
We're just trying to figure out if there's going to be any future in this. On that now with just the raw tissue, I'll call it carbon tissue.
We went from 48.4 grams to exactly 50 grams. So you got 1.6 grams
Okay.
of weight with this piece that is too big for the panel.
So you basically got a gram and a half.
1.6.
But you're going to have a lot more than that in the weight of the glue.
Of course.
White glue.
I mixed white glue, 2 parts glue, and this was the Elmer's that I used.
Elmer's being. Okay, this is his test here.
To 1 part water.
2 to 1.
And what you have is a very...
Looks like watery.
Yeah, it is kind of watery.
Okay.
I used a standard 2.5-inch nylon bristle brush
Okay.
and just painted the stuff on. Now, you'd get better adhesion. As you notice, I soaked up the edges pretty much. You'll get better adhesion when you're working on the outside of the wing.
Of course, yeah.
Concave rather than convex. Now it's still wet, and we went from the foam plus the carbon mat at 50 grams to 92 grams, but it's soaking wet.
Yeah, but some of that water's going to evaporate.
Oh yeah. So we'll see how much of it evaporates and what we have left.
And we won't know that really till tomorrow.
Well, yeah, because it's going to take...
But as long as you keep the notes, keep our database
Now,
up
one
to date.
thing I noticed very interesting, that it would take a brush full and it would do let's say an area 9 square inches, maybe a little bit more. And it would adhere, and then you'd have to go and get another brush full. However, what I did to make sure we'd get a good bond was I went back over it later on. Once you soak the mat in the carbon, and the foam rather, it won't accept anymore. It comes right to the surface and you can stretch it forever.
Right, okay.
So we
That's
know
good to
that
know.
there's a limit. In other words, it won't go on accepting all that you put on.
Right. All right, good day. You're not going to know much more until tomorrow morning when you come back and see what this weighs.
The thing that I find encouraging, I had heard that it was very difficult to work with this mat once it got wet, that it would pull apart. I saw absolutely no evidence of that at all.
And it was fine.
Yeah.
So what is it that you're trying to say? Some of what we've heard is not correct, and some of what we heard is...
There you go. So far, I like the experiment. I kind of wish that we were a few grams lighter at this point, but we'll see when it dries out how much we got.
Well, the only way you know experimental stuff is by doing the experiments.
Yep.
You wish there was another way, but the truth is you got to do a lot of it yourself.
We'll see what we get.
Hey, what I'm going to try to do is clear the deck. Les should be here momentarily. We want to start with a clean table. What we're going to try to do is make up some test panels. But remember what we're trying to do here. This is hard, maybe a little difficult to follow, I don't know, but we're building 4 different wings. We have 4 different sets of wing cords. Oh, I hear somebody coming now. And we want to do each one in a little bit different way. And then we'll select the best ones for our own use. So we're going to start with doing one. I'm going to get the skins. Hey, how you doing, Les? We already got the skins made, so we can get one skinned up right away while Les is working on his other By the way, your prototype looks pretty good up here.
What?
This is the one that dried up last night. Sanding belts. Oh, look at this guy.
Quick stop at...
Let's get busy. We're on camera, boy.
We're on camera.
We need a cup of coffee. Let's get coffee and let's get going.
If I had known we were on camera...
I'm ready to get a big jump on Les, and he shows up early. Now, normally he likes to get a couple hours of extra sleep while Wendy does all the dirty work in the shop. Feeding Chicky, sweeping floor. Anyway, this is the one that, and again, keep in mind, all of these panels are test panels. We're just making test panels. And in the worst of all worlds, if none of them work out, we just go back and make a sheeted foam wing, which is enough people have won the Nats and the World Championships, by the way, with normal sheeted foam wings. Nothing at all wrong with that. But if we can improve it, well, if we can knock a little bit of weight out or keep the weight the same and make it stronger.
Where are the notes from yesterday?
Will happen. This is exactly the amount that's on a skin. It lets us do a test without wasting a core, because we only have 4 sets of cores. So what Les is going to do, again, he's keeping a real good accurate weight on this, and then we're going to do the traditional one back to back just to see what we've accomplished. And in the end of it, you never know where it's going, but we're going to find out.
The 2-ounce mat. The glue weighs approximately 13 grams per panel.
Okay.
So you figure
Per side.
per side.
That's 26, that's over an ounce. That's a lot.
It's an ounce. It's less than an ounce. 28 grams is an ounce.
Yeah, but that's an unacceptable amount. That's a big amount. Wow. Okay, so this is why I didn't want to ruin a core. In other words, by the time you do this side and this side, you've added an ounce to each panel.
Less than an ounce.
The whole panel wants to be less than 100. That's a third of the weight of the whole thing is the glue. So, want to just keep that in mind. So that's why I like to do a test on a scrap, because you've got the same amount of surface area here.
Yeah, that you have on the wing.
Now the real test would be, do the same thing with epoxy on the other side. I bet the epoxy will be lighter.
No way.
Absolutely will be lighter, because you can thin it. It's worth doing a test if you want to pursue
We
this.
can thin this more.
Well, that's the next part of it. See, but that's what happens is you run into these random things that I would never have guessed that glue, it isn't the material. The material is bullshit.
No.
It's the glue.
Agreed.
There's an ounce of glue on that. So that almost puts the kibosh on that. You'd have to have, in other words, a whole panel can weigh 3.5 ounces. So what, if the glue is an ounce, where do you go from there? But that's why you
1
gotta
ounce
keep.
per wing panel, completed wing panel.
And what we're going to try to do as a test, because we know this is the surface area where we normally have, we're going to mix up 1 ounce of West resin and put 1/2 ounce cloth on this, just to see if there's any possibility at all we could eliminate the balsa wood. And you don't know until you try it. So what we'll do, we'll just mix up 1 ounce of resin
And thin it.
thin it. See, here's where you got a lot of weight. See this?
Yep.
The bone rock, I bet they're full of glue.
We didn't sand this either.
Right. You're going to gain. In other words, you might have more of of a moon crater of glue in there, but that's why you got to record everything down to the nanosecond. All right, I'll mix up this stuff.
All right.
This will be a good test, and we haven't even used the core yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
I wonder if what you want to do, Les.
Now, wait a
A
minute.
thought. Why don't you think of this? Cut this in half, roughly. Doesn't have to be, because we know we could weigh each piece.
Right.
We could put balsa wood on one side, glass on the other side,
And see how it works out.
and use the same amount of glue. Yeah. All right. The next test. Maybe the trick is give you 2 cups of coffee in the morning. I don't think
You know how much sleep I had last night after I dumped the coffee on the drawings?
Oh yeah. Tell everybody how.
Never, never, never. At the drawing board, have a cup of coffee. I'm tracing the drawn plans. So I got the drawn plan underneath and the tracing on top, and over goes the cup of coffee. Wiped out. Wiped out.
The thrill of model aviation.
It wrinkles, it stretches, the other dimensions go right out.
Turns into toilet paper.
Right out the...
You know the only thing worse than that is when you have a nice, beautiful model railroad and the trains go in the tunnel, but they don't come out the other side of the tunnel.
Yeah, I can see where that...
Ah!
Be a little bit.
All right, let me mix the resin up.
All right.
Interesting test now, just to know. Because we have the square inches that'll be on one panel of a wing times 4. So anything we add to this, we can really play musical chairs. Add balsa wood, add e-glass, we could actually put a dope finish in there. Except for the leading and trailing edges, we can get a real accurate weight of what anything is going to add to a panel within our little test formula here. But I really think a couple of things we could have done is sanded the core a lot smoother.
Yep.
That's one way we're kind of biasing it the other direction. Now we're going to try to do this. This is 1/2 ounce e-glass. We're going to try to just put a layer on with 1 ounce of West Systems resin and see if that's going to be a viable way. Again, once you're done, I'll mix up the resin. Soon you're ready to go, right?
Yeah, we can start...
Yeah, because we'll know by the epoxy won't change. Well, you put it on, you can put it right on a scale and see right away.
Yep.
And whatever's extra, just wipe the roller with a paper towel.
Yeah, see, I need to...
You got about a third of the resin left, so you probably got 20 grams on there now, less than 20. Don't forget, once you put the cloth on it, some of it's going to ooze right up through, but if you can do it with 1 cup, that'll be less than 1 ounce. Put on the 1/2 ounce cloth. What you want to do in this case is start in the center, work your way out, and we'll put a little bit of heat on it just to get it thin. But you wound up doing this with still some resin, so you probably got 18 grams of weight
Of resin.
I'm going to guess this whole thing is going to add less than 20 by the time we're done here, because you can kill some of that off. Now, you know the other thing you could do if this were a wing?
What?
We could lay a sheet of Teflon on top of it
Yep.
and vacuum bag it. Put it under 7 pounds of pressure, and you'd have at least half of a decent, finish on it. When you use e-glass that has the V-Lon coating, the V-Lon lets the e-glass just sop it up like a sponge. It makes it a lot easier to do a layup like this. There you go.
You know what? We could have this in silver this afternoon.
Well, as soon as this kicks off, and this will take an hour or so, 45 minutes or an hour, you can put a coat of primer on it and see what kind of finish you got. No, we could tissue it. Put a coat of Brodac clear.
Yeah.
Wait 20 minutes and tissue it, and then see what that skin feels like. I'll bet you'll be surprised, and you'll know what it weighs, because you just in finish then. It's going to be interesting. Look, we're going to learn something.
It's nice and even.
Okay.
Now,
All right, then just put it on a scale. Let's see what it weighs.
Circa 63.
We're at 87 now?
Yeah.
24, right?
24 grams.
Okay, and we
Less
thought...
than an ounce.
So now
About
you've got
3/4 of an ounce.
2 ounces on there. If this were a wing, a panel, you'd have 4 ounces of material.
Right. Or 8 ounces overall.
Seems like that might be too much. But again, hey,
Let's see what we got.
let it
Now
dry.
that, how much are you going to make up with the finish?
Well, we don't know yet. That's not a given. But you've got on a whole wing, that'd be 8 ounces.
Yeah.
All the balls are ready for the one test panel that we want to do, the 045 wood, and we're using up some of the parts that are not really nice. They don't have nice joints on them, because this is a test panel. But for anybody who doesn't know, good information. Here's the stuff we've been using over the years, Super 77, spray adhesive. Okay? Well, I bought a new can. I went to Home Depot. This is the truth. And I covered up the label, but it says Super 77. Well, I did a little test. Anytime you use spray adhesive, the labels on both cans say exactly the same thing. They just changed the cosmetics at the front of it. Multi-purpose, yep, except it melts foam. So we do have enough. This is the stuff. It used to be that it would say 77N, and that was non-flammable or non-toxic or some crazy EPA thing, but the stuff with the N used to melt the foam. This doesn't. This does. So what I wrote on the can, we can use this to make sanding blocks and everything. And I was hoping we could use this because you can buy this in Home Depot. Well, you know what, guys? That's why you have to do the test. Even if you have 2 cans, it's always good because I sprayed just a drop here, it just totally melts the foam. Always have to do the test first, no matter what. No matter how much you think 3M is on your side, they just love getting some mandate from the EPA. Oh, take that chemical out, put this chemical in. Oh my God. And you're left with parts you can't use.
Melted foam.
That always happens. Give it 2 passes.
All right.
Russ is going to fine tune his. Not sure we can. You really can't see it unless you do it outside with the sun. You generally want 2 passes. And what I do the wing core this way. And just go right back up and do another pass.
I thought I'd do 2 passes, that was it.
Okay. Run your finger in it and see if it's sticky.
It's sticky, but it's not dry enough yet for me to pick it up.
Okay, then I'll go get the core.
But
We'll
it's
do the
sticky.
core. Well, that's sitting there, so anything overspray, I'll just go right on a core.
Oh, all right.
You want to go take the people at 3M and choke them when they change the formula like this. Oh, it's be so mad. Okay, so we got 1 skin on here ready. Now just do this one side to side.
Yep.
In that dimension. Hold it up here if you can.
Okay.
That'll just eliminate one more possibility that you might want to be a little further away than that.
Okay.
Just get a nice... This way, if you got stripes going one way, stripes going the other way,
You can't miss.
go up and down the leading... The leading edge is the part that's going to want to be a problem, and the trailing edge. And we already got the leading and trailing edges cut out. There you go. One of the advantages... Okay, one of the advantages of doing it this way is it goes real quick. Is make sure you got the trailing edge down. I always like to have a little bit of that trail. Yeah, no, you gotta put it on the table itself. In other words, like that. Then it can't move.
All right.
We want the leading edge loose. This is the test. Oh yeah, you're ready to go. You're ready. No matter what happens, even if it's wet, you don't get a second chance.
I know.
If you go here and go, ah, shoot, it's over. Okay. Yeah, your core's ready. I would just worry to try to line up the leading edge, give yourself 1/4 of an inch. And we're using a table, Get that trailing edge up. If it hits the trailing edge before you're building a warp.
How we doing?
Good, perfect. Get the front down. The most important thing is get the front to step before you roll back.
4 hands are better than 2.
This is a great job if you're an octopus. Okay, now roll it back slow. The tape holds it from warping up on you. And this way you don't build in a warp, you build in straight. Now you know the leading edge is going to want to pull up just a tad.
That's
So
exactly what I did when you
Right,
rolled it.
babysit
And once it's done, it's done.
You got to babysit it, right? There's no babysitting it on this. Okay. Take that off, and you can then right now trim it. Give it a little. Ooh, that's nice.
Could have got lucky once in a while.
Here's a razor, a brand new one. Always a good time for it. And then we'll get the leading and trailing edges on. To get too much of that off, just get it's the leading and trailing edges that we want to get on, and we want to get them on as soon as possible.
Why's that?
Well, just so all the glue is drying at the same time.
Okay.
Not critical, but I don't want to go have coffee now, you know what I mean? I want to get this part done.
I was looking forward to coffee.
Yeah, I know you were. There you go. And then we'll run it on a sanding block and true it up. We already have everything ready. The leading and trailing edges are all set to go. And then while this is all drying, we'll make up our coring templates. Now, do this too, just before you put it together. Give it a little, because it's always the leading edge that wants to come up just a tad. You can just true those edges up.
Yeah, see what I meant? Well,
You left a little bit on there?
Yeah, it's stuck on the...
Just pull it out with your fingernail. But you don't need that on there. We're going to core all that out when we make the new coring templates. See, the objective of this is when this is done, we're going to fiberglass with 1/2 ounce cloth, the whole thing. Then what we're going to do, we're going to trim it all off, carve it, sand, whatever. And then make coring templates to take out almost all the foam. We're going to make new coring templates, not the standard ones. And then compare the weight of Les has a standard cord panel to this one and to our testing that's up on top of the television right now.
Almost.
Even if you take a 64th of material off, it won't matter because you're going to carve the leading and trailing edges in. Using our system, we want to block off the foam because we're going to core right to the wood on this experimental core technique. And actually, the foam that's behind that wood doesn't add any strength. The glue doesn't add any strength. So what we're going to try to do is we put masking tape down. And we're going to just try to get glue right wood to wood from the alphatic resin. Just put the slightest little bit on there. And you don't have to put a lot. Believe me, the slightest, that's 10 times too much already. We'll hold that on. Now you could wipe that with your finger even. You just do this like we're on. Yeah, that's plenty. And don't put any even on the wood. We don't even need it. And if we happen to see a place where it's coming free, we'll just press a little aliphatic back down in there. No, just take your time. Take your time. This is one of the areas we want to try to get a few grams out of. That foam up on the wood, the leading edge, is just going along for the ride. It's not adding any strength. You can just put little dabs of it even down there, Les.
The more I'm doing it, the more I'm finding it.
Yep. And good thing, the tape was Les's idea. Les seems to be, I think that's the system we need to implement here is extra coffee in the morning for Les.
That's right.
It seems like when he has 1 cup of coffee,
Useless.
it's not real productive.
Useless.
2 cups of coffee and he's ready to take on the planet.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Okay.
Up the tape.
Yep.
Now just get the leading edge piece. Since you've cut it, you know the exact size. And we'll get that taped right on.
It was, you see how narrow the foam is back here. We ran a single piece of tape down, and then I simply just dolloped the glue on the tape, wiped to smooth it out with my finger. It spilled nicely onto the wood, pulled up the tape, put the trailing edge on.
But the essence is we have no glue on the foam. We just a wood to wood. And there's always a part when you core it the other way, the standard way. You always got a big glob of foam in there and a glob of glue doing nothing, just going along for the ride.
So there we are.
All right, so that's going to get put away. We're going to go have lunch. This is going to dry, and then we're going to carve it up and glass it. That's the next step here. By the time we get back from lunch, that'll be ready. Leave it up by the heating vent. It's pouring rain out there, so we're not missing a B25 day, that's for sure. Just put this up by the heating vent. Let's figure a way you can get both of them up there.
Well, I think this doesn't need any heat anymore.
Okay.
Just let it sit.
All right, let's clear off the table so we get back. We'll be ready to go do the next step on this. So after a lovely lunch, he zona sawed off the edges, drew up the edges real nice, and then he's going to demonstrate his unique technique for carving and sanding leading edges in a matter of seconds.
Give me that hammer.
Now the master wood carver has decided to put a little piece of tape down on the leading edge, use a master ass screw plane to establish his exquisite cutting style.
Don't believe it, folks. He told me I couldn't touch the wing unless I put masking tape on the leading edge.
Well, that's true too. Holding the plane at about a 45-degree angle to get nice clean cuts.
Okay, we're getting down close, but
I do the last little bit with a sanding block myself.
yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll use a 26 blade, but I got to take some off the nose here.
Just a little bit. How's it look? Nice and straight?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Boy, what beautiful curlicues you make. Should be in the licorice business or something. Getting that dialed right in, eh, baby?
I don't know about that. You're going to be the judge.
A way to make the trailing edge, if you're going to have a square trailing edge, we're not, we're going to have a round one, because the flaps are going to come off right up to the end. But one of the things you can do is just put a piece of tape, put a center line, and put an 1/8" tape on each side of the center line. That's an easy way. Les chose not to do that because he's so highly skilled, so ambitious. How's that leading edge looking? We ready to give it the kiss of death? Let me see what it looks like.
I've seen dogs that have straighter hind legs than that.
It looks like a pig's tail. All right. One.
Anyway.
Let's get the center line on that before you round off the trailing edge. Because we want to get some accurate center lines on there, an easy way is to just put a pin, use the ruler, let it rest on, well, it's a two-man job. It's easier if you have two guys. Now, if you only have one guy, a good way to do it, tape one end of the ruler. You can always do it that way. And this way, if you're working alone, which a lot of people do enjoy working alone, and you reference those lines, off of the lines that John put on the original cores, very important to get the same, continue his line front and back. That's the easiest way I know to do it anyway. Now the last thing Les is doing here is putting a radius on the trailing edge. This is because we want to have a hinge line that we can pull the wire out, pull the flaps off, tweak flaps, and that's very similar to the way this worked out, where the radius is on both sides. Actually, that's the way the B25 is the same way. Typhoon is the same way, has the radius on both sides. As soon as Les is done with that, I guess we'll be ready to glass. Well, we can glass one side today, we'll glass one side tomorrow. It'll dry overnight anyway. We got about a half hour left today. The idea of this is once we have the glass on this, then we're going to make different templates with much thinner foam coring, so that there'll be a lot less foam, and we hope the foam that we take out is going to be more than the glass we put on. Again, we'll believe it when we see it, we'll see it when we believe it, and if it doesn't work out, nothing gained, nothing lost. But this is just one of the 4 experimental wings that we're working on. And even if we don't make any real big gain on how we're doing our foam wings, it doesn't matter, because plenty of people have won the World Championships and the Nats, or both, with foam wing airplanes in the standard configuration. So you're just going to dress that off and we'll be ready to glass.
Something like that?
You got it, baby. You know, we'd want to sand everything maybe with 400 or something, get it nice and smooth. A couple of tips that'll really work well no matter what is before you do any kind of covering, silk spanning, in this case fiberglassing, getting the wood as smooth as possible. The more you can sand with a block, final sand with even 600, 400, anything to smooth it right out, it'll just keep all the little rough spots from coming up through the e-glass. Probably mean that you could get away with a little bit less resin that way too. You got a long block there too, you know, right on the end of the table. If you want to run that long block down, and if we see what's happening, we lost the front center line because we blunted out the leading edge. Now what's happened in days gone by, airfoils used to have more of a point in the front because motors weren't that powerful. Well, now that motors are more powerful, you can blunt out the leading edge, use that to your advantage. It keeps the plane from speeding up and maneuvers a certain amount, and definitely makes a little more lift.
Boy, I'll tell you, that's a nice block.
The block works well, right?
Yep. It's a nice block. We'll do the other side.
And you want to get a real fine sanding on that, and it will be ready for... What I think we can do is put the e-glass on one side, let it dry overnight, and do the other side tomorrow. That'll be the easiest way to do it. A big block works nice.
Yes, it does.
We got a whole can of glue to use to make more sanding blocks,
Boy,
too.
do we have glue.
We got plenty of that glue.
Remind me to take foam with me tonight. All right, see what you think of that radius.
100. One of the things you can do tomorrow or the next day, it's still raining out there, but when we can go outside, we'll peel off all the old sandpaper on these things and put new sandpaper on all the blocks.
God knows we got the contact cement.
We got enough contact cement, we can go in business, we can sell these things. Yeah, that's looking pretty nice. But we're going to get a final sanding with 600 on everything before we do any of the e-glassing. And this is a step, if you really take your time here, the smoother you get this, if you don't have any high spots, then you'll tend not to go through the e-glass after it's glassed up, you know? So you really are doing something that's worth doing here. If you can get that final finish on with some 600, 500, smoother the better. Before we lay out the e-glass and the resin, I want to get all the dust off of this panel. You see how much dust comes off of there? That's amazing, huh? And of course we'll vacuum the whole work area, the table, because I don't want this wing when we're glassing, it'll be like flypaper. I don't want to have a problem with it like that. You could use wax paper, you could use newspaper, but we have Teflon. We're going to put a clear sheet of Teflon in the core, just so we can work on this conveniently.
And reuse it and reuse it.
You can use it over and over again 1,000,000 times. Put some tapes. If you didn't want to put tape, you could put some weights around the edge, just to make it so it holds it in position while you're doing the fiberglassing. And we're only going to try to fiberglass with 1/2 ounce cloth and West resin right up to about the middle. If whatever hangs over, it's okay. We'll sand and clean it off tomorrow. I will do one side, let it dry overnight. We trim it up, leaving about an inch around the perimeter of everything.
And actually, it's turning out to be in some area.
Okay, that's ready.
Mix it, Bruce.
Ready. Ready to mix resin. This way, this is West Systems resin. Just start in the middle, brushing it toward the edges, make a sunburst pattern. Then we'll squeegee off as much as we can, add a little heat to it, see how much of this we can squeegee off. Remember, what we're trying to do is the amount we're adding to this, we'd like to get the same amount out by doing a little different. More of the foam is going to come out of this wing. And even if it's a trade-off, the reason I like the idea is because this resin will it'll be a lot harder, and it'll be a good substrate for when we go to put a finish on it.
All right. How about a little squeegee action here?
If you put too much on, just squeegee it out.
That's what I'm doing, but I want to make sure that the cloth gets wetted real well.
Yeah, the main thing is not to have a dry spot, because if you have a dry spot, as soon as you hit it with sandpaper, it's going to peel up. That's the only problem if you have a dry spot.
You know what, Wendy?
But
If you would, loosen this tape here. We're going to have, there's too much tension.
yeah, just google it. As long as everything's wet, then when you squeegee it, the last little bit will come right off. You go right up to the center line on each side. And if you get a little drip, it'll sand right off tomorrow. That's the nice thing about the West resin, it sands a whole lot easier than the other resins.
What I want to do is just wet the cloth through to where that seam is, and then just
Right.
a little squeegee.
Then you can squeegee down to there. The last thing we'll do is flip it up on edge.
Look at this.
You catch it?
No.
Oh, you got a piece from
Yep.
when
See it?
he didn't clean the trowel. See, I'll tell you what's happening. It's these things from the squeegee. We didn't clean this before. I'll say I'll give you the benefit of a doubt, but it really wasn't him.
What do you mean weak, Kimosabi?
It was Kimosabi over here who didn't clean the squeegee.
There's another one.
Heat, you've used about 2/3 of that ounce. And you can see every time you do this, you wind up squeegeeing off. Let me see that squeegee when you're done.
Yeah, nothing.
Okay, yeah, because I got most of it off.
Right.
I was working while he was still brushing so we could get time ahead of this.
And I don't want to, at this point, I really don't want to
I would be more...
hard on the cloth.
No, or you pick it up and you'll just tear it. What I'd like to do though is get right to the edges. You know what I mean? Go right to the leading edge, wrap around a little bit extra even if you can, that'll be just fine. And tomorrow when we come back here, I'll put this up by the heating vent to dry. We come back tomorrow, this will be ready to work on. We'll flip it over, trim it. Now what we have to do tomorrow, and I thought of it's a problem, we don't want to lose time, we have to make our coring templates and then glass it. Because what I want to do is once we glass it, you can't work on it the rest of a typical working day. Yeah, you can see. I wouldn't do it that way. You're going to catch. Be careful you don't catch the cloth. Funny, you can take, even before this dries, Les, you can take a single-edge blade or double-edge blade and just rough trim it, or you can let it dry and in the morning trim it. It's up to you.
Trim it in the morning and then give it a light.
Give it a light dusting, sanding, or whatever you want to call it. All right, then just finish that up and we're done for the day. Okay, so this morning now, tell me about the glue. You went out to, we're going to have to do some research.
Well, I think we just got to call that 3M number. Oh, sure.
Why can't we just buy 77? That's what aggravates me. Here's the 800 number, 1-800-364-5777. 3577. We're going to have to give that a shot. Because you don't know if this is going to be the right glue. This doesn't say 77.
What? Sure it does. It says Super 77.
Where? Super 70, okay. I have a feeling...
What does yours say?
Super 77, and it melts foam. Anyway, Les did some research last night, running around all over the place, and we only wound up with one can, so...
That's a can I've had...
Oh, you had that, so we didn't even get a can.
Yeah.
All right,
This rounded edges.
even if you leave a little extra on, it'll sand right off. The trick is, get it down to within, 1/64 of an inch, and just hit it with a sanding block. Now, you can see how much stayed on it. You can just touch that. You don't have to really sand it, just take off all the little, the little dots. I would use like a block with 600. That's what you got, 600 on there?
Yeah.
And just try to feather it in. You really don't want to sand down into the glass and tear it all up. Just the minimum will do it on that.
What I got here is...
Before we fill up, what we want to do is make the templates now for the coring, finish them, and then we'll glass the other side of the wing. You agree? Is that your idea?
Yeah.
I think we're accurate enough. We can make those templates up. Les is busy engineering up some of the, what we'll call them custom coring templates for this test wing. And of course the reason is we're going to be doing removing a lot more of the foam now that this wing is glassed and it's got a nice surface on it. So what we need to do is we need to make these templates up, and in the last thing of today, flip it over and glass the other side of the wing. Is working with a real fine pencil line. We traced out the wing. But he's cheating. He's got good eyes.
Like how?
Yeah, I don't see the blood popping out of these eyeballs. If I was doing this, oh my God. Anyway, this is a test thing. And again, we're making a test panel. But once these templates are made, we're hoping Johnny's going to be selling a lot of these wings. He's free to use our templates, of course. Even if we said not to use them, we'd use them anyway, so what's the difference? We may as well give him a slice of pie. He's going to eat it anyway. The original coring templates.
Windy?
Yes. What Les did is he figured out, because we have to take into account, we're going to try to make a fourth bay as opposed to 3, so Les did the calculation. Where's the template? And we thought we had templates, but we don't.
Here's how we did the calculation.
We don't want people to think we don't know what we're doing. Oh, we know you know.
Okay, basically what Wendy did was we put down the main template, calculated about where, using the bell crank as one of the criteria, where we wanted the first spar, second spar, and third spar, colored in green how that would work out. Then we took the tipped template, sure, easy for me to say.
Here at the Boeing Design Department.
I have to stop drinking at lunch.
And breakfast.
The tip template, superimposed it, calculated where the spar should be by virtue of the fact that you want all of these bays to, all the cutouts to taper so that you can extract the cores.
All of these need to taper, and relatively equally, we would hope. Hope is a big word in this project.
So here's the root of the main beam, of the first one.
Okay.
Same at the tip. Here's the second spar at the tip, and then the back spar at the tip, and all of this green and what would be superimposed orange is additional foam that's going to come out of the wing. So
theoretically,
make it a little lighter, and that's it. So now we have to make up the coring templates.
Now he made, of course, this was his original brainstorm. I don't know, to make these.
And basically all we did was we took the finished wing, made a cutout in 1/4-inch balsa, backed it up with plywood, same with the tip. Here's the root. And since these spars, the foam is going to disappear when we use this type of coring, rather than index it on the inside of the wing and holes, whoever's coring the wings, when John gets a hold of this, he'll be able to slip these on, and then we'll cut the coring holes in here so he can core from beginning to end, never remove the templates, and that's it. Nothing to turn over or anything like that.
No, that should be
and
perfect.
Most we'll have is between 1/8 and 3/16 spars left in the middle, rather than the conventional 3/8 to a half. So,
Again, the whole idea of this is to use more fiberglass, less foam, and overall not add any weight to the finished product, but then in essence have a substrate already on here to put our finish on it. One coat of Brodak dope should go on there and tissue right over that. That should happen relatively easily. We'll find out. Now, since we're running low on time here, I'm going to glass this off camera because Les is busy doing those templates, because we want to try to get this in the mail either tomorrow or the next day. So we're just going to fast forward through this with our high-tech approach here. He's working up the templating regimen that we kind of laid out here, but again, a lot of this is hit or miss. You just got to kind of go through it and figure out where it's going to be productive and where you can save a little bit of weight. We're trying to get rid of the weight here more than anything else.
here you go.
All right.
So you can see there really
There's really going to be
much foam left there at all.
Well, we're going to find out if this is doable. You know, if you don't try this, we're not really going to know.
And the reason for the radiuses here is, I was thinking about when we're making these 1/8 of an inch thick.
Yeah.
If he cuts a vertical, let's say he cuts across here, and then hesitates a little bit to change the direction of the wire, he's going to burn right through.
Yeah, that's
so
the
let's
problem.
give him a little bit of a radius there so he doesn't burn it out. Because if you burn this through here, you know, you're screwed. You're not just not going to have the integrity that you need.
Well, we're going to find out.
We'll see how it works out.
On the route that the track will follow.
We will.
I just wanted to do, before I finish up these templates, I wanted to show this. This is Les's little, what shall we call this, sanding drum. They come in little, he's got a whole set of these, bought at a woodworking supply house. But we just found the perfect job for them. What happens is, on my drill press table, this fits right through, so I can pick a different height. Try not to have it rock the table. But I can really get this to take material away very slowly. And I can go right up to the pencil line here. Again, because we're working with such fine tolerances, it keeps everything at 90 degrees also, which is real nice. Just one more of the little ideas that Les has brought to the shop that we've been able to put right to use. Handy little tool. It sells for not a whole lot of money, by the way. I think that was like $15 or $20 or something. All the woodworkers' supply houses have them. I'm sure we're going to find other things as we go along. Now what I do is just move it over to the next position, go further up the sanding, up the drum a little bit, center it. Now you can see in the side-by-side comparison what the two standard coring templates would be. And our experimental earmuff plug-on, I'm not sure what these should be called. But we're going to get a shot at this. I weighed up the wing. The wing it added a little over an ounce and 2 grams to fiberglass the whole wing, both sides. Probably if I wanted to, I could sand 3 or 4 grams off, get it a little bit under an ounce for the whole wing. But remember, even though that's a little heavier than what we normally would have, we have the whole base of the finish already on there. So by seeing whether this is going to be worth doing, not worth doing, this is now going to go, next step is to get it up to John Duncan, let him do his thing, and see if there's going to be any future in this for us, or if we've learned that we just can't do this. And if that's the case, we'll be trying some other approaches that we have in mind. We have 4 of these to test before we actually have to make a wing. Well, while our wing is away at John Duncan's, I'm going to be making up a wooden crutch. This is for a customer. And for a Cardinal kit, this is some of the custom work that I do for people. And I thought the reason I wanted to put this on tape is because we're doing all this carbon fiber crutch stuff. Well, it might be a good time to just revisit the basic rules of making a normal wooden crutch, ordinary, traditional, whatever you want to call it. First thing is to take the tape off the mounts if you're going to use these match sets of mounts, and you'll notice the grain. They're always a matched set if you've purchased them from me or if they're in a kit. And you want to be sure that the grain is not going this way. If the grain is going in this dimension, a lot of times it'll be different on one side because of the grain of the wood. And in this case, because they're uneven, we wouldn't be doing this anyway. But if you had half-inch square mounts, you'd like to always think of a sandwich. You'd like to have the bolts go through and sandwich, not put it this way where it would tend to split. So that's the first step. And of course, sighting down, make sure that they're nice and straight. When we get these, we get them, I throw about 2/3 of them away because they're not straight. But the ones that are good, they become the basis of a good crutch. I take one of my spare motors because this airplane will have a jet. I try to reference, leave 1/8 of an inch of clearance in the front. Just get a rough clearance mark here for where I want to put the pads. I want to leave myself just a little bit of extra room. I want to make sure the mounts are in the right spot. Now I can just drill a little pilot hole and put in the screws. Now, one of the best tricks I know of, anytime you have to drill 2 holes and you want to get perfect alignment, you can see we've drilled 1 pilot hole. Get 1 part in, and no matter how you do it, let the first one line up the second one. These are little hardened, special plated screws. Now with this one in place, now I can drill this one and put the second screw in. In that method we get a real good alignment on this. Now the next step, take the other motor mount, make sure they're in the matched set mode, line this up and just repeat this a second time with the pads perfectly even. Again, a couple little tricks and tips making this. You can make this very conveniently and accurately. If you use some other method, maybe it'll take more time. I don't know. This is the way I make them, and I make a lot of these. One little thing you can do to make this a little bit of a tighter fit, you see how I've left this about a 1/64 of an inch, not even. Because what this allows the bolts to do, when you actually fit the engine, it allows the motor mount to press right up on the case itself when I get the alignment. Now what I need to do is put a piece of masking tape on here and mark where I'm going to drill my holes. Marking these holes can be, a nuisance at times, but a way to make it easy, or as easy as it possibly can be. What I try to do is leave myself about 1/8 of an inch of clearance in the front, maybe a little less. For a nose ring, get that pressed up in position. Take a ballpoint pen apart, and if we're really lucky, and we never are, the pen will write on the tape. And I can interpolate here because I can see where the holes are. I can see the little indents. Even though the pen isn't writing, I can get the dents, little dents in the tape. as my center holes. Have those little indentations. I can make a little bit darker mark on here with a pen. And now what I want to do is check that I'm right on center. Now you can buy this really neat, you can see it's right on center too. You can buy this neat little gauge that you don't have to have a spare motor to use. Well, you can do that too, but now we can drill the holes. And we want to drill them a pretty tight fit around a 632 bolt. I want to get a relatively tight fit around the bolts. So I can leave a couple of thousandths, leave it at 135 drill so we have a nice tight fit on the bolts. The holes drilled as accurate as we possibly can. We want to just recess these just enough. I want to get a drill that's about a 190, and I just want to recess these just the minimum amount. I don't want to drill the 190 hole through the whole part. I just want to drill it right up to the edge. Another good little tip is to just put some tape on the drill, the thickness that you want to go down, because we only want to recess these the thickness of the blind nut. I don't want to have the hole go, I want to have a little, like a cavity in the top, so this blind nut will fit right in and be a nice press fit. You can see how that, let's see if we can get this up on a macro lens. You can see how it just leaves just enough room for the blind nut to be in there. And it's almost a press fit, but I don't want it such a tight fit that when I tap that in with a rubber hammer or tighten it with the bolt, I split the mounts. And I always want to use the real wide footprint heavy duty blind nuts. What I try to do is catch two of the tangs of the blind nut, because the blind nuts have a wider footprint than the mount. I wouldn't want to have two off and one on. Now before I go to set any bolts in here, I'm going to take each one of the bolts and just put a drop of motorcycle chain oil on the thread. So when I put the CA around the blind nut, it tends not to. I don't want to have CA go in there and stick to the threads. Now, using a T-handle wrench, I can tighten up each one of the bolts. And you can just see it'll just go right down into position. Don't want to over tighten it at this point in time because I want to get some CA around it. You can see we've got get the oil off of there. We've got one mount situated now just the way we want it. And I'll draw the other one up in exactly the same way, and then I'm going to start setting the dimension between the mounts before I make the support piece. But what we're doing here is actually using the motor as a fixture to ensure that the clutch is perfectly straight and has no stresses built into it. Okay, with both of the mounts bolted up, now I can make these tight, back them out just a little bit, and I'm going to put some thick CA along here just to hold the blind nuts in place while we work on this. And what we're going to be doing for the whole next building season, we're trying to combine. I put a little thin CA on here first without any kicker at all, and then just make a nice bead of thick CA. We're going to be trying to combine in the next year or so some new technology that we haven't tried yet, and some standard, and I guess just like the crutch, we're going to try to be doing some carbon crutch development, and some standard, and always combining the old with the new, making a nice mix that's enjoyable and still educational on all parts, because that's really the part of the hobby that I seem to enjoy the most, is developing these new things. The thing we want to do is set the micrometer and make sure we have a parallel dimension right to the end of the crutch. And this is the tricky part. We want to get this between the mounts filled with relatively hard wood, not the lightest piece we have, but with the grain going side to side. And there's a couple little tricks that will allow that to happen real easily. But the first thing, I loosen these bolts so I can move this, and I just get it set to where I'm on the same dimension. You can lock the micrometer where you can make a little fixture up. We got this as parallel as it can be, and I've laid it on a flat glass table with this part hanging off to make sure I don't have a warp built into it. Because these are 5/8 mounts, we can start with a piece of wood that's oversized. And I try to get this right up on top, but not quite, so it just drops down a 1/64 of an inch. Then I take the knife blade and just put a score in it. No pen lines. Now when I go over to the jigsaw and cut this, I want to leave the line on, and then I'll sand the last little bit so it'll be a nice tight fit. It'll be oversized, but then I'll just take the belt sander and true it up. And this is the best trick. Use a knife blade and leave the blade cut on. So now we have the piece. It's a relatively nice straight fit. And it's a tight enough fit that it won't fall out. I'll just repeat that 3 times because I want to fill this in right to the end of the crutch. I fit up the blocks. So I put a little dot on one so I know, because each of these, to get a nice tight fit, it'll be a lot easier if I have a mark. I don't want to play musical chairs. I want, when I set these up in my fixture, that the next block will be number 3, of course. The thing is to do a dry fit of all the blocks, because we have the little numbers on them. We know they're going to fit. Now the back of this obviously gets trimmed off and trimmed up, but we'll leave it oversized so that that can be trimmed just to fit the exact fuselage shape the model is making. Now, next thing I'm going to do is mix up some the overnight drying epoxy. We're going to soak all these parts and put this in a clamp and let it sit overnight. John Pothier has given us these nice little mixing cups. I think they're end caps for something. He's got they're lids for water bottles. But they work perfect for making an epoxy mix. And since this is slow drying epoxy, we really let it sit in the clamps overnight. It's it's SIG epoxy where one tube is twice the size of the other. What we want to do is get it thoroughly mixed. Even when we think it's mixed, mix it a little bit more. That's one of the secrets to doing a good job. Now this is kind of a sloppy way to do this, but it seems to work pretty well. As I trowel out some epoxy, take each one of the blocks, because what I want to do is force it into the end grain. And then I'll go over to my hairdryer, and you'll see what really happens is this soaks right in when you hit it with a hairdryer, because it's end grain. This is in effect going to be a vibration dampener for the whole life of the plane. You know, we like the life of everything to be. I'd like my own life to be infinite. I'd like to have an 18-year-old body. That's what I'd like. Wouldn't we all? But anyway, this is just get everything pressed in, no matter how you do it. It's not important. This is a good way I know of to make sure some of that goes down, and you'll see in about a minute that'll soak right into the grain. You're getting double and triple the glue surface area. That's why we mark these little blocks. I don't want to play musical chairs with them later. Unfortunately, I see we're getting near the end of the video. This might be the last little project we can get on here, but it's new technology, old technology. Hopefully a 40 ship. Going to start our 826 project, I hope. Hope Mike is busy home building that fuselage for the plug. Run the jets some more. We just got things to do. Now, needless to say, I always prefer wearing rubber gloves. Another thing to do, if you're going to work on a part, I don't want to get the motor oil greasy. Using the flux brush, getting a good amount of epoxy on there is very important. Let it soak in, because this is slow drying. This can soak in now. 5 or 10 minutes. Now a little bit of heat. You'll see it'll soak right into the end grain. You can heat it right up to the point where you see bubbles, but no further than that. You can see it's basically soaking right in. As soon as it soaks in, I'll get another little amount on there till I have a good glue footprint. Next thing, of course, we have these little lines on the block. We know we can set these in place. So for number 2, get some of the extra glue over here. We don't need the extra. Gets a little messy, but I think this is the most durable, vibration absorbing crutch you can make. And it's a major contributor to having a good engine run when this is a properly made part. Now, with this out of the way, we need to get our furniture clamp, which we just happen to have. You can buy these in Home Depot. Put a little bit of pressure on it. You can see with that furniture clamp, a little bit of the epoxy oozes out. You actually can go put this in a vise because this is long. This is an oversized one. Back here we can put it in the vise out by the drill press, and we're just going to let that sit overnight. Now that it'll sit there overnight, tomorrow I'll come by with a brand new 26 blade and shave both sides of it, sand it real nice, do the final work on it. Well, that basically just can sit there with the epoxy drying overnight. Today, the last step, the epoxy's all dried up now. What I'm going to do is pull out the motor. This is where it really pays to have that little drop of oil on the bolts or some kind of silicone or chain lube. I'm going to do a final sanding and grinding on this. And because we're at the end of the tape here, I may not even get the end. Maybe. We don't know. We've been really busy in the shop. It's been a great time, and it's going to get even better. After I ran this on a belt sander is to just take a sanding block, get it all nice and screwed up. Best if you have a nice long sanding block. Check that it's true with the micrometer. Well, that's it, and I hope you've enjoyed the video, and please share it with your friends. Share it with everybody. We've got some traditional stuff coming up very soon, and some pretty high-tech experimental stuff. It'll be a nice combination of little projects that we're working on in the shop. And on the next tape, we're going to get our new manifolds installed. They've already left California, and they're in transit, so next time we get a chance to work in the shop, we get the new manifolds on, they'll lighten up the front even a little bit more, and then we'll reset the carburetors. More stuff coming. It just couldn't be a better time to be in the world of control line stunt. And we'll see you on the next tape. And special thanks again to Warren Walker for getting us Tiger DeStefani's autograph. What a special treat that is.